We created a sensory-friendly room in here today. It's going to be like a lounge or a spa, so you can relax and enjoy the lack of lights. It's very much, every time I speak, I go and set up the room like this. It feels much more relaxing to me, rather than having all those fluorescent things. We should be getting started in a couple of minutes here. We'll let people get their seats. If you might notice, there are two names up there. The other person's here, but you'll see him in a second. He's on Skype and from London. And so you're going to see him talking while we're both talking. And I'm going to do a couple things while we're waiting. I'm going to ask you to pass this around. This is an e-news. If anyone wants to be on our e-news, they can sign this and just pass it around the room. Keep it going, guys, so it gets all the way around. And so, yeah, we're going to get started. I'm going to show you who the other presenter is now, and we'll both introduce ourselves separately so you can do that. So here we go. I'm going to put that down. I'm going to be switching back a lot here today because I have a lot of different things. Now that is Oliver Stone. I mean, Oliver West. I knew I was going to do that. Yeah, we just didn't know who he was. So this is Oliver West, and he is co-presenting with me, but he is in London right now, and it's 6:45 in the evening. Did you have a nice dinner? Supper?
Hi. Sorry, say that again, Michael.
I said, did you have a good supper?
Oh, no, I thought I'd wait till we're done, actually, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're going to have
So
lunch.
what time is it with you there?
It's 10:45 in the morning.
Okay.
And so,
Well, good morning.
Yeah, so Oliver we've done this a couple of times now. I've gone to his presentation in London, and then we did this at ASA and Autism Society, the last conference together also. So we're going to co-do this presentation together. And so I'm going to let him introduce himself first, and then I'll introduce myself. So go ahead, Oliver.
Okay. Good morning, folks. Last time, Michael, you were able to swing the laptop round so that I could see the audience. Is that at all possible?
I'm going to try that without screwing everything up.
It just helps to know who I'm looking at. Great. Thank you. Well, good morning, and I'm delighted to be able to link in with. As he said, we've worked together on a number of occasions now, and I'm not sure actually how much time we're going to have. Are we splitting the session, Michael, or am I going to share in one go?
What we'll do is we'll let you talk about yourself here. Then I'm going to show some slides. Then we'll come back and get some. You can talk more about the slides, and then we'll just go back and forth. And at the end, we'll have you up. We'll have you up during the question and answer period.
That's great. Okay. Well, just quickly introduce myself. I'm actually here in Cornwall, which is right down in the most southern. I'm affiliated to a University College Falmouth, and I on about 22 degree courses and a lot of postgrad courses. And the students that I work with have basically taken the strategies that I offer in early years, primary and secondary situations just to another level. So today I'm going to try and share with you just how broadly useful this strategy can be, basically. So
Yeah, so
I won't waffle on too long now.
try to talk a little slower because your lips are going. It looks like one of those Japanese films where your voice is after you're talking. So tell us a little bit about your background.
But based in the UK until I was about 11 years old, and then my parents worked internationally for a while. And as a result, I've been to about 9 different schools, which didn't help my education experience. By the time I was 8, I was classed as chronically dyslexic. And at that point, I really was struggling to present myself with any sort of verbal communication skills. And they were really quite concerned as to how disabled I was by this thing called dyslexia. Sadly for me, it was only when I finished an arts degree that I realized that it was visual thinking dominance that had, in a sense, I believe, got in the way of me being able to think in linear terms. And once I'd, in a sense, harnessed that skill, things just changed really quite rapidly. And I suppose that's my message today and in the work that I've been doing for the last 15 years, is to share with folks that actually if you harness that visual thinking strategy, lots of amazing things can happen from the point of view of things connecting on your thinking process, but then for you to be able to communicate that process clearly. Okay, so you're single, you have your professional background, maybe a little bit about you? Yeah, so as I said, I've pretty much been focused on the just by accident, really. I was a practicing artist running residencies in international schools and in schools in the UK. And on one occasion, there were 2 or 3 children not particularly not at the back of the class. And without even thinking about it, I created a folded grid, and I'm going to be sharing with you a little bit and asking you to literally fold a sheet of paper in half. Yeah, what we're going to do is ask you all to take out a blank piece of paper and fold it in half until you have, whoops, we just lost your picture, Oliver. We're folding it down to credit card size, so that's folding it 4 times in half. So you're going to with a 16 grid. So you have 16 squares. Take a piece of paper and fold it till you have 16 squares. Okay, then borrow some, because I am not going to be able to go out there and give it to you. And then you'll come up with 16 squares. And you can use this to take your notes today, because this is going to teach you how to take visual notes, which is part of the system, right? Absolutely. And as I was saying, these children were not listening, and without thinking, I just said, draw what the teacher says. And these children just seemed to know exactly what to do with the grids. And I got a phone call about 2 weeks later from the teacher saying, what did you do that day? Because those children had been able to focus, participate, and just benefit from the education system, just really in quite profound ways. And the only thing we can think is to track it back to the day that you visited us. And we noticed that you'd a drawing activity. And to my surprise, when and again, just the story grew very quickly. The idea that you can draw a series of images and then be able to see the connections between them in a structured way seemed to be the breakthrough for many. And it's every day I'm finding new uses for it, or certainly encouraging individuals to develop
Okay, so I'll introduce myself now. And, I'm Dr. Michael
Okay,
McManmon.
thank you.
I'm Dr. Michael McManmon. I'm the founder of the college internship programs. We have 6 programs around the U.S. for young adults with Asperger's, high-functioning autism, and LD. And we do post-secondary programs. They're comprehensive, cover everything from academics, careers, sensory integration, social thinking, executive functioning, life skills, counseling, banking, budgeting. It's a very comprehensive program. Our closest one is right here in Long Beach. And we have a booth out there afterwards. If you want to come talk to us, we have a little bit of materials there spread around the room if you want to know about us. I also was diagnosed myself about 10 years ago with Asperger's by my staff, and then I got formally diagnosed after that. After running my center for almost 20 years, I was diagnosed, and then that's where my life went like this instead of like that, and everything started developing. I have these 6 centers because now I can talk to people, look them in the eye. I can work as part of a team. I can ask for help. I can do a lot of things I couldn't do because I've done all the curriculum. You know, like Leanne Holiday Willie is on my board. Brenda Smith Miles, who was here yesterday, is on my board. So I've taken all their curriculum, and we can't see your picture now, Oliver. And whoops, what's going on there? Oh my. We're having computer trouble today. When Mark Twain was doing this back in the 1800s, he had a hard time remembering the dates, and figures were monotonous, unstrikingly in appearance, so they didn't take hold. So he said he started using pictures in his notes to try to, when he did a speech. So instead of making cards where you have all sentences, he would have a hard time doing a speech from that. So he just made little cards with pictures on them. And he could tell the whole story of his whole lecture from that. So they can make anything stick, particularly if you make pictures yourself. So in other words, if you do the pictures yourself or the notes yourself, it's much more powerful because you remember how it fits together. And so when a student does it, no matter if it's some goofy scribble, he can remember from that. So the visualization process then is the idea of using pictures for my lecture. This is Oliver, for Mark Twain, occurred to me. In 2 minutes, I made 6 pictures with a pen, and they did the work of many catch sentences. I threw that pictures away as soon as they were made, for I was sure I could shut my eyes and see them in time in my brain. And so he had a little visual slide sorter, and he was able to just bring the pictures up and then remember the sequence and then give his lecture. That was 25 years ago. The lecture vanished out of my head, but years later I could rewrite it from the pictures in my memory. So some of us have visual memories like that. So this is an example of some of the pictures he drew for his speech. The first one is a haystack. Below it is a rattlesnake, and it told him where to begin to talk about ranch life in Carson Valley in California. The second one told him where to begin to talk about a strange and violent wind that used to burst upon the Carson City from, I guess it's in Nevada, yeah, from the Sierra Nevadas. Oops, there we go again. We're having trouble with the, yep, there you are, you're back again. Sorry. Sorry, we're having trouble because the computer, the signal's not as strong. Yeah, you there?
Yeah, I'm here. It's still quite glitchy, I'm afraid, but we'll muscle
Not seeing your picture.
through.
And the problem is, there it is. Okay. Gosh darn it. So let's go back. This is going to be a problem. But we're going to just work it through anyway. Okay, so we're going to have to go back to where I lost my thing too. Darn. I'll try calling him. you should be there now. There you go. So I have to minimize you again. Sorry. Hang on. Now I can't put on my PowerPoint, and I'm not sure what's. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we're almost finished with this, and then we're going to come back to you, Oliver. Sorry. So the third picture, as you easily perceive, is lightning. Its duty was to remind me that when the time was to begin to talk about San Francisco's weather, and that there is no lightning, no thunder either. In San Francisco, there is no lightning nor thunder because of the way their weather patterns are. So Carol Gray's comic strip conversations, where what she did is use these for individuals on the autism spectrum which have trouble interpreting social situations and understanding speech as quickly as most social interactions require. So a comic strip conversation is a conversation between two or more people using simple illustrations in a comic strip format, similar to what we're doing here. Using a child's favorite cartoon character, you can show children how to behave in a socially acceptable manner and conform to social standards. So some of those are like this. Jimmy reacts inappropriately when people in his environment use a loud voice. He created this comic strip conversation using characters from his favorite TV show to provide him with the appropriate response. Ouch, that hurts my ears. Don't talk so loud, okay? Instead of Jimmy hitting the loud person in his environment. So this is a way of using it with small children. And then this is one that I created myself for my little adoptive son who's 6, who has Asperger's and autism. Okay, good. My son's online. It's nice to know. So he says, I want to go out. He wants to play on the play set. I drew this out real quickly for him. And I say no. And he says, I want to go out. When he starts crying, gets on the ground. I say no again. Then he starts crying worse and screaming and yelling and kicking his feet. And I say, no, you cannot go. Now we cannot go out to pizza for dinner because I can't take him out there like that because he's a crazy maniac. And he starts crying worse. And I say, go to your room. And then he's crying in his room. And then I have to carry him to the room because he won't go to the room. And then he's on the bed crying. So that's one example. And then I showed this to him. And I said, isn't this what happens usually? And he said, yeah. He looked at me and I said, how about if we did it this way? So he says, I want to go out and play on the set. And I say, no. And he says, can I go later? And I say, after dinner. And he says, okay. Then we go to the restaurant and he shows them eating pizza. He says, thank you for my forever family. And then he's playing outside on the swing set. So it's just and this helped him. He said, oh, he looked at it and he goes, that's me, that's you. You drew us. And I said, yeah. And he saw what he had to do. So it's just a helpful little thing that you can do. It took a few minutes because I drew this like really quickly. And so we're going to let Oliver talk now. We'll bring him back up for a minute and get your comments about this, Oliver. I don't know how I'm going to do that. But you there, Oliver?
I am indeed.
Okay. I'm going to try to.
Indeed. May I suggest that if I start pixelating again on screen, it might be worth just turning off the video because then that will at least ensure the quality sound. So,
what do you mean?
Yeah, I won't be offended if you switch me off again. So if you can hear me now, I'm
yep.
really excited by that I want to get
frustrating
across. Are you okay?
Yeah, no, it's frustrating because it's going in and out with your speech, so you can just go ahead.
So you're using a lot more bandwidth because you're doing video and audio. So
Okay.
you're just doing audio.
Okay, so just do audio.
Yeah, I would put audio.
Tap that guy there.
We're going to try just to do audio.
Oh, no, I think that engages
Okay.
as well.
He's not going to see me now, that's all.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Okay. Well,
Go
see
ahead.
how you go. I can switch my video off as well. Shall I?
Yeah.
Clear sound. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So hopefully this makes a difference. And
Okay, go on.
Michael, I'm assuming that you've got the images or the moving images of the film clips.
Okay, we
going to take us through.
So I'm going to do that now. Do you want me to put the first one on?
Well, no, not quite just yet. I just wanted to check that folk can see that we're just going to progress through those 6 very short clips. And they're all, in a sense, going to demonstrate the same thing, that I believe that until an individual sometimes is able to see their thinking process outside of themselves, that perhaps the thinking ability is, in a sense, left dormant. Certainly that's the case for me. Sometimes in the same way as, I don't know whether you find this, that there's quite a lot of individuals that will think aloud. They'll start talking about something before they quite know how they're even going to construct the sentence, certainly finish it. And the visual strategy of getting it out onto a piece of paper, no matter how, in a sense, primitive the drawing is, and just, you know, it doesn't have to be good quality drawing. It's not about the quality of the idea that you're actually the process of your thinking outside of yourself. And I'm excited to find just over and over again that after about 6 weeks of, certainly in a primary school situation, of children using this on a regular basis, that they find that they don't need the grids quite so much anymore, because their processing is actually working that much quicker without it. In other words, they are seeing the connections between images, and a lot of them say that they feel more intelligent as a result. Okay, so should I put the first video clip on now? So yeah, I'm just going to quickly introduce you to Stacey. Stacey is a university student who really struggled to right the way through her education, and it was only when she got to university that she was diagnosed dyslexic. Before that time, she felt she was just stupid, and it's just been very exciting to see how quickly she developed as a result of using the grids. So she'll say a little bit more about that now. Thank you, Michael. Okay, here's Stacey.
With the briefs and reading and hacks, I before I would read it, I wouldn't take it in, or if I wrote notes, I'd come back to it and I couldn't make sense of them. But now using the grids, I would make the pictures of what I was reading, and using Ollie's techniques of scanning the page and picking bits out of different sections. I'm able to remember it easily. When it comes to lectures, I can make pictures for what's being said, and again, I can my memory's got improved quite a lot. When it comes to crits, instead of just reading a piece of text and not understand that was it, and I can't really elaborate on it, with the grids, I can confidently look at the grid and be able to talk about it and feel more confident talking about the subject. And then kind of gradually flow on to the next image and the next one without having those awkward points of not knowing what to say. And my timing and stuttering and the speed of how I'm talking is slowed down tremendously. And I in the past I wouldn't have dared to give a presentation, or petrified of talking in crits. And now with the aid of the grids, I just feel a lot more at ease with what I'm talking about and with myself in general. So okay. I feel like I'm a lot more intelligent now. I feel I can think better than I did before. I can see things in a different light, and I'm hopefully just using footnotes more, it'll develop. Yeah, this is helping my professional career now. I can stop in an evening now and relax instead of having to work all evening. It's become more my life really now. Kind of it's all coming together, and just confidence really. I just feel a lot happier.
Through all these numbers, but the fact of the matter is, it can make more combinations of connections.
Stop. Okay, so you got the next. That's the next one.
That's the next one. How are we doing for time, Michael?
We're doing fine. We have about an hour still. So.
Okay, that's good. So that was actually Alice speaking there, and Alice was amazed that within 2 weeks of using the strategies, and as you can see, she really developed, in a sense, a language for herself. very quickly she found that she was wanting to literally see it as her first language. She actually started noting down pictures that she wanted to reuse on a regular basis and kept them in a dictionary type book that she could recall if she needed to. But she found that she was very quickly able to put really large amounts of information in order for the first time. And she actually produced an 8,500 word essay, planned the whole thing without actually having to use any written notes until she was ready to dictate to a dictaphone. And then she just typed up what she was speaking to herself over the headphones in her own time. Of course, nowadays, there's voice recognition. Dragon Dictate particularly has really developed in the last 6 months. And so you can talk to your computer and see the text appearing in front of you, and I certainly benefit from that myself. So moving on to Joash there. Joash, I would say, is I would say an example of a lot of young people who I meet who, particularly in the UK, just due to financial pressures or whatever else, there's a lot of young people, I believe, who are on the autistic spectrum just aren't being assessed or certainly found out or encouraged to develop their personal way of learning and communicating.
Oliver, this is the second one. Is the older guy with the glasses? Do you want me to skip him?
I must have a different one up in front of me. That's a shame. Okay. If you like to play, have you got 6 images in front of video clips?
I have 2 that are together. The first 2 are together, I think. So this man is with a tan jacket on and blondish hair.
Yeah. Isn't there a young chap underneath him?
There might be. I don't know. I don't see him. I think he's standing at a podium with a computer.
Okay. Well, never mind. If you find that clip later on, we can refer to him. That means if we've got to Professor John Stein, a good friend of mine who works at Oxford University, it was actually his father who found that the fatty acids in fish oils help information to arc from neuron to neuron very effectively. And he has spent much of his working life just looking into how the brain develops. And he will be just talking in a few minutes just about how the neuron activity can be changed, in a sense, by our use of it. And I'd like to suggest we actually have a go at making specific notes here. And please don't feel pressured to do it as I suggest. But I'm going to suggest that you have a go at making notes without any words. I'm going to encourage you. Is there a gasp, Michael, as I say that?
Say it again.
Normally there is. Please don't worry about the drawing skills required for this. Stickman style drawing is absolutely fine. And if I didn't encourage you to just use images, you might find that you're going back, I believe, to your routine of processing with words. So ideally, I'm going to say, if you have to use words, please don't use any more than about 5 words as you listen to this clip. So can I encourage you to use the grid in front of you, and in any particular order, however you want to use it, and use as many boxes as you like. Could you have a go at just noting down basically what John says, and as close to word if possible? When I'm working at university, I often get the students to challenge each other to see how close they can get. Can they get as close to word for word without having to replay the clip? Now, that sounds quite a feat, but when we've practiced it a few times, they find that this, in a sense, visual thinking button is switched on, and they find very quickly that they can get quite adept at this. So let's see how you get on. I would say, for a lot of people, they say it's really quite uncomfortable initially, and I don't know whether, I'm afraid, Michael, I'm not sure of your audience, but if particularly teachers, those in a teaching role, I believe often have to use that linearizing sequencing ability, and sometimes I believe that sometimes gets in the way of them being able to think in a multi-layered way. So this could, I'm not going to say hurt, but it might feel a little bit uncomfortable. And a lot of people say that if they don't understand what I'm talking about, they certainly understand more about dyslexia by the time I finished talking and presenting these presentations, because it really does just show just how differently we can think if we think in the visual realm. Right. So have a go as Michael plays this through at just as many images as you can in order. And then Michael, if you're happy, if your audience is happy, if somebody's bold enough to have a go at reading it back, I'd be delighted to hear how you get on.
Yes, so we're going to have a go at it. And I wanted to say that for me, when I did the grid, you notice I had to put arrows going across, and I had to make sure that it was all in sequence for me, because if I just put it all over the paper, I wouldn't be able to decipher it for me. But other people are different. You might want to go in a circle, or you might want to, everyone's different. So we're going to play the clip, and my marketing meeting is going on now, so I have to get out of that. Okay, getting all my notifications.
And there are particles in the whole universe, and it is organized. Now, there's nothing else that has that degree of complexity in the whole universe. You'll know that the outside world is sensed by these receptors, and then the messages are transmitted down these what are called axons, these wires that go to the next neuron in the circuit. And very often, as in the cerebellum, these pathways are organized with exquisite precision. So this is a series of inputs to this part of the brain called the cerebellum, and it forms these very parallel fibers, so they're called parallel fibers, and they pass through the receiving areas of the main cerebellar output cell, which is called a Purkinje cell, after the medical student who discovered it in Czechoslovakia. And you'll see that there's a lovely sort of organization, geometric organization of the way in which the inputs and the outputs communicate with each other. And to many people, it's irresistible to suggest that it's acting a bit like a computer. And in many ways, the brain does work like a computer, but it is by no means as simple as a computer, much more complicated. The point I want to make is that at each of those little conjunctions between neurons, there are these things called synapses, which have been blown up here, synapses. So this is where one neuron is communicating with the other. And the strength of these synapses can change. So everything you see, hear, feel, or do throughout your whole life has an effect on each of these little synapses. So although there is a genetic underpinning of how our brain develops, everything in your life is affecting these synapses in some way. That's what we mean by memory and experience. And so every person's brain, even in between identical twins, is going to be very different in the end because it's shaped by your experiences.
Okay, wait. Stop. Okay, so let's talk about that.
Okay.
Who has a good example?
May I ask a few questions, Michael, just of the audience before we have a go at reading it back? I'm a bit of a meanie because I'm doing this deliberately to get you to be one step removed from your audio memory.
Okay,
what
so
you just heard.
We're going to, this guy right here, I know he has it all down, so we're going to ask him to read back the presentation.
Let's see, there was something about the universe was complex, and that had to do with the brain, and there were neurons and axons and Purkinje fibers, and lots of synapses, and synapses are shaped by our experiences. That's all I got.
Okay. Who else wants, what did he miss? What did he miss? Like a computer. I would have been drawing a computer there. How about all these little fiber things that interact, that they don't, they sort of, they're structured together and they sort of fit together?
I drew a hologram on mine because everything
A holograph.
ever experience affects every one of our signings.
Right, so it all is interconnected in a sort of a pattern,
Right.
but it's not on one plane like a computer, because it's a biocomputer, so it's all over the place instead of not just one thing. So the next video is the one of the.
Well, can I just comment? Can I just comment on that? I would just say that it's, you know, I just wanted to ask: did folk find that you were tempted to write things down? How difficult was it to avoid wanting to do that?
Yeah, I think they're head nods. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And if that's the case, were there those of you that felt, well, hang on a second, it's just quicker to write it down? What's the deal with making an image? What's the benefit there? And certainly a lot of students respond with that. They say, look, I've got this language, I might as well use it. I know how to write something down. The problem for me is that, and I think for a lot of people, is that actually I believe that's using quite often short-term memory strategies rather than long-term memory strategies.
Yeah.
And the exciting thing about actually being forced to think about an image, I believe, just fires up a heck of a lot more neuron activity.
Yeah.
And so if we can get used to note-taking with that, in a sense, more holistic view,
He's not going to see
being
it,
more
so we don't have it on.
kinesthetical as well. I believe that there are great benefits to doing that. And if we can become quite fluent, in a sense, at being able to create those images quickly, we've really got something. And certainly that's the results that I'm seeing from the young people that I work with.
Yeah, and I sort of picked up one guy's grid, and he's got a really good job of it, where he has someone picture, you know, the brain and the way the synapses are, and the whole thing out there. And I think this shows you the example of how you can remember this forever. Well, if you go back and read your notes, you won't remember exactly what the professor says, but if you have a picture of it, you sort of remember the qualitative part of it, at least for me anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so the clip next to Professor John Stein is a clip of, I'm off to South Africa next week, actually, to work in townships for 3 weeks in various schools across South Africa, because we've just seen a very exciting response to the Footnotes program down there, just because there are so many young people who are completely illiterate, and not just the young people, but their parents as well. So whole communities are really quite excited about the fact that this grid system gives them the ability to put pen to paper, for some of them for the first time. And the exciting results are here to view. And Linda here is a teacher, the only white teacher actually in this school, in a place in the Karoo, Prince Albert. Out of the 1,000 primary school children that attend that school, apparently 80% of those children have alcohol fetal syndrome. So a lot of them are really struggling, they say, with intellectual capabilities. And they were shocked. They were absolutely shocked to see just how much was going on when they actually asked them to use the grid. And if you listen to Linda, I think it just proves just how important this grid is versus just encouraging individuals to draw in a non-gridded environment. So feel free to play that. Thank you, Michael.
Okay.
Small hearts, which translates as crazy hearts. He never writes, he never reads, he does nothing at school. The only expectation we really have of him is that he behave himself and not disrupt the class. I was really amazed when I saw these drawings. I had no idea that he could draw like this. Certainly, if I had given him an instruction in class to sit and draw whatever, he wouldn't have done it for me. And obviously, I mean, mentally, something is going on. Obviously, we are not able to measure it and give him grades for it because we never communicated with him on his level.
I mean, as we went through the various communities a couple of years ago, just handing out this idea of the grid and all the different strategies that you could use with it, we were just amazed that so many teachers just hadn't, in a sense, seen the benefits of visual strategies until it was, in a sense, offered in that way. I don't know whether you would agree with this, but I think a lot of people would find a blank piece of paper quite daunting. And there's something about the grid that, in a sense, takes away the fear of usage of the paper, because you're not having to decide where to place your image, you're not having to decide how big you're going to place it, you don't have to worry about the ordering of it, you don't have to worry about the quality of it because it's a lot smaller. You have the opportunity to repeat the image if you don't quite like that one. In a sense, there's that freedom to really just think, draw as you think. And I think that's the crux of it, that it's really important to encourage individuals, even if initially they're quite shy of the idea of drawing, that actually, once a bit of practice with this, you really can find some very exciting developments. And
yeah.
It was.
So we're having the same kind of. Go on. I'm sorry. Are you there? We're having the same.
Yeah,
We're having the same kind of. I'm sorry. It's a delay. We're having the same kind of experience with the dramatic arts with our students, where a very aspy kid shows up who can hardly even talk to anyone else. But if you put him up there and he's doing a Shakespeare monologue, he is crystal clear on the words with the accent and everything, and totally awesome. But if you just have him in a conversation, you can hardly talk to him. He won't look at you or do anything. But you get him up there and he can make it. Yeah.
It's incredibly freeing, and I just wanted to say that the application is very broad. Next week I'm going to be working in London with businesses that are basically that they sell innovation skills. That's what they do, and they're realizing that they're perhaps not tapping into the visual potential enough. And so they're asking me to bring the grid to them. I work with the youth offending services now. For the last 3 years, we've had amazing results where individuals have been able to use this as a way of creating a deja vu strategy. In other words, I get them to tell a story with pictures in sequence of an event that they would like to, in a sense, never do again. If it's getting into fights or some offence that they need to just prevent. And I come alongside them and say, look, in a sense, I can understand why mind over matter just isn't going to work here. Not to say that, the blame can't be apportioned to a certain extent, but, in a lot of cases, I don't feel it's fair to actually apportion blame when the individual repeats the same offence. And in a sense, we've got the evidence now, because when we introduce them to the deja vu strategy, they find that by having an image that they've already pre-drawn, they've planned what they're going to, in a sense, distract themselves with when they're back in that tempting situation, or if they're seeing red. I don't know about you, but sometimes you get to a certain stage where you've passed go and you can't turn around, that angry or that frustrated, or you might work with a young person who can sometimes show those tendencies. And it's just so exciting that this isn't about mind over matter. This is just literally an image pops into their mind and says, oh, that's a good idea. I don't need to do this anymore. I'm just going to go off and do that pleasant thing that I've already planned for myself.
I would say
we're having amazing results, and it's keeping a lot of young people out of prison, for example.
I think it also would be a good clinical tool at that point, because when the student or the person that's having the social thinking problem or their perspective taking problem, they are able to, it's cognitive behavior therapy there at that point, because they're able, in pictures, to be able to see where the juncture is, where the disjuncture is, where their thinking went awry and where they made a bad judgment. And so if they get that in their head in a picture of what they need to substitute, like a little film clip in their brain, like when I feel this way or when I think this way, then I switch to this video clip or this CD, and I do it this way instead because I know where that's going to take me. And it's sort of...
that's a really good point, because a lot of the young people that I work with, they you know, some adults just find it shocking to hear them say, well, I don't care. I just, you know, it doesn't bother me still that person, you know, is, you know, really quite unwell in the hospital because of my actions. They just can't see the connection. And what's been really exciting to see is just how, as you say, something really does trigger for them. And actually, once they've realized that emotions can actually charge their intellectual ability, they can get quite excited about that.
Right.
Certainly, and obviously that aids self-esteem greatly. And we've seen young people just, you know, very quickly say, you know, go from a position where they literally are not attending school at all to realizing that actually now that they have this strategy that can enable them to do two things at once, always able to do two things at once, even when a teacher might ask them to put your pen down and listen, they know in their situation that what they need to do is switch on their visualization strategy and hopefully with permission, physically use it in front of them so that they are actually saying, I know how to navigate this situation my way. And I could go on and on and on about the different stories of, you know, just real breakthrough, literally just overnight.
Yeah, I think let's play the next clip. Why don't you introduce that?
Okay. To the Stacey there on the top corner. She's another example of somebody who really didn't have any awareness of her visual thinking capability. She was absolutely shocked when I asked her to do the activity that you folks have just done. She didn't know that she literally could go and switch on this ability. This ability, in her case, she would say, that she didn't know was there. She just hadn't been allowed to try it. And I have to say that there's quite a lot of, I work in international schools a lot, and particularly over in Geneva, where there are students who have 4 or 5 languages by the time they're 6. In other words, they're not really mastering a mother tongue. They've got so many languages going around them, they're just really struggling. And I've met and I've worked alongside a lot of autistic spectrum children, and I've been staggered as to how many teachers actually say, well, the drawings they do are so similar to each other. How can they possibly be useful? You know, I've been able to prove that actually it's not about the quality of the image. It's about the cognition. It's about the connection to that thinking process. And even though the images can look very identical to each other, they have a very accurate memory recall when they look at the images because of their placing within the grid. So Stacey's just, in a sense, demonstrating just how quickly it made a difference for her.
Okay, so we're going to stick that one on.
And then, like, to look at that is far easier for me to look at than a page of writing. And then to say, right, I need to do that today, let's do that today, and get myself organised, I think, more than anything. So, yeah, helped me dramatically, like, changed my life, really.
Okay, that was a short one.
It's
hold on.
difficult to spell my spellings.
Why is it stopping? That's still stopping.
And
we're now on to the little boy.
Okay, well, I'm aware that it's 22 now, so, I mean, we can talk about Josh or we can leave it there. It's certainly given you some examples of its usage.
Let's play Josh real quick because he's so cute. I want to see him again.
Go for it then, and I'll talk about him afterwards with the time that you give me.
To draw stuff and remember how to write it. Rethinking how to write the word and when I forget to write the word, I do that and I
draw a picture,
I
yeah.
draw a picture and I tick the right
You
letters
try and
and
spell
wrong
it,
words.
don't you?
Yeah.
And then why are you ticking them?
Because it helps me remember the word and then I can do it right.
Yes, because you can remember which ones are the wrong ones, can't you? Yeah.
He was getting 0, 2, 4 out of his weekly spellings
When was that?
back in October.
Yeah.
And with the strategy that you showed us when we went up to Probus, he's now getting 10, 10. Yes.
And then you were saying you got them all done in 5 minutes last night. That is brilliant. Excellent.
Because of the pictures, they
Yeah.
help me to spell.
Such a show.
When I knew that other people did the thing what I do, I felt happier because I knew someone else was doing it and not just me. When I was drawing these pictures, I would have it put me into the future and it helped me think of ideas quicker. It's made me sort things out because I used to be really muddled with stuff and I couldn't sort it out that quick and I wasn't like everybody else. But I can sort it out quick enough now and put it in order. And now I remember things better. And it helped me do when someone was talking behind me and tapping on my back saying, Josh, do you want to talk? I didn't listen to them and focused. And I used to be shy and I didn't want anybody to ask me a question because I wasn't very good at questions. Now I am better because I draw the pictures and I can just come straight out with it. When I first met my cousins, I was like, oh, I've got to remember the name. I've got to remember the names, what they're going to call them. No, so and then when I met Oliver, he just said, what I do is just remember them, I just picture them in my head and remember them. And I tried that and I've got better and better at remembering names. I think I would love to do the job Oliver does because I would like to help younger people. And Oliver's taught me these things pretty well, so I can remember them. When I'm older, I can just go to places and help little children who's stuck on their things like I am.
So, Oliver, I'm going to have to move on to the other material.
Yeah, sure.
And then we'll come back to question and answers about this if I can get it off of there.
Okay.
What's going on here? There it is. Okay. So I want to get this out of here. And oh boy, getting all kinds of stuff here. Okay, so I'm going to put those off, and I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint so we can get done here. And then we'll come back to question and answers. So, whoops, I'm going to have to scale through. The logistics of this are really wonderful for me to learn how to do this. But so we're going to talk about executive functioning and visual thinking. And this is some examples of things you can do with your students at home. A visual schedule or hygiene checklist. You can do this in their rooms. We do it even with college students. And they're not embarrassed because we do it in their rooms where they can just see it themselves or in their bathroom. And that's one technique there. Weekly schedules where you can put visualizations on it for people. It helps them to understand where they're supposed to be. Sometimes it's just a big blur if it's a bunch of words on a page, right? Like I do a lot of marketing and ads and stuff. And if you have big paragraphs, people just don't read them. You need a couple sentences about the event, and that's it. So being clear with them about what they're doing, and it seems a little childlike, but our students like it, and they understand where they're supposed to go. We use a backpack system. Everything goes in the backpack, and including their keys, their cell phone, their computer, their wallet, their schedule, and so that they put that in their room, they take it to their classes, and they always have that with them. So that is their little executive functioning. It's like your little closet you carry with you. And then we also, this is an example of a room before the beginning of the semester. And then in rooms, we can do things with different people, depending upon what works. Sometimes color-coded bins, where you put all your your pants in here, or your colored things in here, your black and whites in there, or whatever, your whites in there. Or you can do it so that there's bins throughout the room or in their closets, or you can put labels on them. And we have kids who are like going to, really smart and going to go to university, transfer from us to a four-year college, but their rooms are disasters and they can't find the paper to hand it in. They can't organize themselves to get to school on time. So that can be their handicap too. So you have to look at it, all these things. And as an example of a room, the same room, our students have to put their rooms back looking like this once a week. And in between they clean up a little bit, but once a week they have to have it back to, the default screen so that they can start over. I'm sorry, we get back a little bit. So the other things that you can do are we take pictures of people's beds before they make them, and after they make them, so that they can see what it looks like when you put it together. We do medication checklists or reminders on their mirrors in their bathrooms. We use their cell phones or to give them reminders throughout the day, to program them in there. We have what we call executive functioning skills classes, which have these visual posters on the walls behind the students, which show what they're supposed to do at the college with little icons on it, like me with your professor, and you have a little picture of someone with a professor. And they're like lists on posters. And they meet in a small group, and then they compare notes, like what did you do on the weekend about your paper? How did you write it up? How did you do your outline? How did you study for math? And they compare notes, and then they do that in the beginning of the week. On a Monday, we call it the Bookends program. And then they do it again on Friday. And they plan for the middle of the week, then they plan for the weekend. And then they use these posters. So after we developed this at Indiana University at our program there, as soon as I saw it in working, there's 5 students instead of like 15 in a class. We have 5, which means costs more, but we did it that way on purpose to try it out and see if it would work. They're in a horseshoe around the instructor, and then they have these posters behind them. And so I sat there and I said, if I had just had 1 or 2 of these sessions when I started college, there were things that I looked at up on the board. Now, you could say anything you want to me, but there were things that I saw on the board, like going to talk to your professor, that I never would have even thought of doing. I thought they were the enemy, trying to mark me down. And why would I go to them? I didn't think of them as wanting me to pass. You see what I'm saying? I got straight B's without trying in college, but if I probably would have had A's if I just followed the things on the posters. So you have to present everything in multimodality, And so, Oliver, now I'm going to put you back on Skype. First of all, I want to say this real quick, that this is my book. It has nothing to do with this presentation, but it's written to parents and professionals on the spectrum, and I'll be signing this in the other room. It's available after this presentation. It's not a visual social thinking book. It's a book based on all of the areas of curriculum: social thinking, executive functioning, sensory integration, and it's all stories of young adults on the spectrum, like going to college or going relationships and everything, and my own story, because I was only diagnosed from the past, like high school with me, sensory issues with me, And so it's a really good read, I think, because it's very practical, like any ASPE would be. And then we're going to go back to Oliver. You still there, Oliver?
I certainly am.
Okay. Let me get rid of this and put you back up there, and we can talk more. Can't see without these, unfortunately. Seeing if you're there. That must be you. Yeah, okay. Now put your picture back on.
Okay, see how we get on.
Because I don't see you anywhere.
I've clicked it, but it takes a few minutes, doesn't it, to get through.
Okay, well, it's not coming up, so so you know.
Okay.
So let's talk about the other little clip with the little boy.
Yeah, okay. Well, I was going to say that Joash is not an isolated case where very quickly the individual realizes that they have something to offer to others. I think the empathy is there very quickly because they know they've been through difficult times in comparison to perhaps those alongside them who haven't struggled in a classroom situation. And I believe it's a really easy and early mentoring activity that you could encourage young people and, well, all ages to use very early on. We know that teaching somebody else, by teaching somebody else, we learn better that way. And I believe that this is quite a safe activity that you could encourage somebody else as soon as they've got just even the beginnings of an understanding of what they could be doing with their visual thinking capabilities and how they can use the grid. I mean, there are 10 or so different strategies there in the book, In Search of Words. I think you've got a handout with the details of that. And there's quite a few case studies that talk about how individuals really do just benefit from mentoring this very quickly to others. And it just gives, once again, just grows their confidence no end.
So comments about the utilization of this in other areas besides with juveniles and with the classroom? Have you used it anywhere else? Where else have you used it?
I worked with a company 2 or 3 years ago who there's 2 companies in the world that make radiotherapy machines for hospitals. And there were some high-flying professors who admitted that they were very linear thinkers. But they had these machines that needed maintaining, and obviously when they went wrong, they needed to train engineers to be able to work with these machines. And they realized that their teaching method just wasn't working for the people that who were coming in to fix these machines. And it's just an example of how actually it can be used at a very, very high level, as well as very much in an early years situation. It really does go that broad. And the lovely thing about it is that if you introduce it to a young person or at any age, it is something that they can take for life with them. And I have to say that a lot of students that have been able to plan a 2,000-word essay in linear terms often find when they're dealing with 8,000 words that they've got to use another strategy, and it's that mapping strategy that comes into play at that point. And I have to quickly stress that I believe that mind maps are very useful in some situations, but really not very helpful in others, because I believe they're actually very linear.
Sorry, Okay, so yeah, the mind mapping, and you can Google mind mapping sometimes and look at it. It's very much a similar thing. It's not a grid system, but it helps you scale in little boxes, like the same size boxes, and you can put things in order. You can put them in different ways. You can have it be like an outline. So what would have helped me in college would be to be able to use this in boxes and draw pictures. Like I know that my main theme would be in the middle, and then to be able to draw a box out here and say, okay, if my theme was environmental, effect of dams or something, and then if I had a picture up here of the forest or something, I was going to talk about the effect on forests, and if I had another picture up here saying it was going to be effect on the farmers downstream, maybe I'd have a picture of a farm, and then another picture over here, and it would be an outline for my paper, and that would help me a whole lot if I had thought about doing that, which I never did. So you could use mind mapping. You can do it in scaling. You can do it in a circle. You can do it, any different way you want. But it helps people like us. You could do it like this is the most important point. So this box is big, and this box is a little smaller. This box is a little smaller. Or there's 3 little boxes under this point because you have to make 3 points there. So that's a real good way of outlining your paper or your talk or other things. And for people who are visual like me and Oliver, if I went to Europe, like I've gone to London, I can draw you a picture of the room that we were in, Oliver, when you gave your talk in that Rotary building over there at the International School. It's the American Community School in London. I can draw the room. I can tell you everything about the room and the room before it, where we had our little tables and stuff. I can tell you where the bathroom was. I can tell you what it looked like outside the building, the park across the street from it. There was a park across the street where there were some sports fields. So I thought, until I was diagnosed, that everyone did this. I didn't know it was any different. I didn't know that every vacation I've ever gone on in my entire life, I have a little video in there, and I can play it back. I can tell you when I went on my honeymoon, like 20, 30 years ago, I could take you all over everywhere I went and show you pictures of it all, if you could see in my brain. So I thought everyone thought that way. I can't remember the names of the streets. The only reason I remembered the Rotary building, because there's the road. I thought it was strange that the Rotary had a club in London. That's the only reason. It was like novel information. That's the only reason I remember the name. But I remember the buildings or the trees or the monuments or the streets. That's what I remember. So there are a lot of people like that. So if you're working with a student who's primarily visually oriented and you're just going to speak to them all the time. So I was at my center over here in Long Beach, and I came at 8 in the morning, got off the plane at 10 o'clock at night, which was 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I got up early next morning, went to the center. All the students showed up on time at 8 o'clock for their reframing, which is a process we do with them. They were all there on time. So that was a good point for them, right? For the staff, because they didn't know I was coming to it. And guess what? The instructor, as wonderful as she is, sat at a desk in front of them and talked. And they did this little visual thing that we do with these, they're like thermostats, what are they? Thermometers, where they have to talk about if they're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, how they're feeling, disoriented or whatever. They have to put their rating up there, and then they talk about it. So they did that one little visual thing, but the whole rest of it was her sitting there talking to them. So as nice as she is, when I do my email, I haven't caught up to her yet, I'm going to put it out there and say, okay, listen, you have to be using the board. You have to have a video clip of whatever the social thinking theme of the week is. You have to have a little video of it. You just go on YouTube and pull out and put in Google, cognitive flexibility, and you'll get a video on it. There's videos on everything in the world. And then find a good one and put it up there on the flat screen or the whatever we have there now, and show it to them as part of the discussion so they get it. So you have to be multimodal. When I would go to class, if the instructor just, are you there, Rod? Are you there, Oliver? Are you there? Uh-oh. Well, that's why I'm talking on so long. But so anyway, you have to be able to have a picture, a visual for them. You can't just talk to them because it goes in one ear and out the other. So you there? Do you have a comment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think it's really important to stress that there are definitely occasions where the individual doesn't know what's going to be the most important thing to say and what order to put it in. And that's where I believe mind mapping does fall down. And so that's where, for me, the grid has, in a sense, filled the gap, because you can be as random as you like. And I think that's really important.
Okay. So we're going to go to questions and answers, unless you have anything else you want to say right now.
No, that's fine. I'd be interested to hear any questions. Yeah.
Okay, so question right here.
One of the things I struggled with on the exercise was, maybe I'm handicapped by this, but actually something about neuroscience, at least the basics. And I struggled because I spent so much time trying to draw these things that I wasn't actually listening to what the guy was saying. And so, yeah, I can recite to you certain things that went on, but I missed the complete concept of the talk.
Okay, well, that's because you're not as much a visual thinker. That's all. You know, if you...
So there's a really important that, I mean, when I do this activity, I encourage people to think about what the balance of visual note-taking to listening, to word note-taking, to any other kinesthetic memory strategies they might have. And that's really what we were doing, was to find out what the balance is for them. So you, sir, might actually be finding that your auditory memory, I don't know, you win arguments. Basically, your audio memory may well be saying, look, I don't want to be distracted away from, but you know, by having to think in visual terms so much. And it is about getting the balance there, getting it right.
Right, so when I was in second grade, I didn't do anything different. Anyway, when I was in second grade, yikes. When I was in second grade, I was put in the front of the class in front of the blackboard by the nun, because I was drawing in the back of the room. And there were like 40 kids in the class, 40 or 50 kids in a Catholic school. So she put me against the blackboard in the front of the room, and that meant, it was like putting me in a cell without any windows, because I'm a visual learner. So I would sit there at my desk like this. The blackboard's right there, my desk is right here. And she would shove a paper in front of me occasionally, which I didn't hear the instructions for because I'm a visual learner. So I'm in my own little world looking at I can probably draw the desk and still the woodwork on the desk. But I was, so I'd shove a paper in front of me and I'd just have to figure out what to do with it. And that was it seemed like for a couple weeks. It was probably a few days, but it seemed like I was there for weeks. And so when I think about it now, if there was more an individualized approach, if she had said, Michael, you can draw using the grid while take notes that way, and see, because people in my relationship always say you're not listening to me if I'm drawing or doing things, but I am. When I'm at a conference, like your conference, it helped me to concentrate more on what you were saying by drawing, not the opposite.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What do you want to say about that?
Yeah, no, I was just absolutely agreeing with you that this is about multi-layered thinkers as well, and that visual strategies, I believe, can work for very dominant kinesthetic thinkers. That, in a sense, the visual strategy, I believe, just opens up the linking of all of these different abilities, and I don't think people really know just what their balance is between audio, visual, kinesthetic. What is yours? Did you find from that activity that I asked you to do that perhaps you have a better audio memory than you realised in comparison to the population around you?
That's a good question. So who found the exercise easier than trying to listen the other way? You did?
No,
Oh, you didn't?
I've been tested. I know I'm about equally auditory and visual.
She's both auditory and visual.
And for me, that was a good strategy because
She said she did both on her paper. Okay. Do you have a question over there?
Yeah, I have a question about the boy who, I think we were seeing that his spelling actually improved by drawing pictures.
The boy who had his spelling improved after he did pictures.
So I'm wondering, what kind of pictures would he do? I mean, it sounds like a great idea for students that are visual learners, but I'm trying to figure out what kind of pictures
Well,
do you draw?
so if you draw a picture of something, you're more likely to remember the word. Like if I have to remember your name, if there's something about you, like that little curly Q coming down on your thing, I might be able to. What's your name, by the way? Diana. So if I made that into a D, I would think Diana, and it would remember the words. So that's how the pictures connect with the words. So when I have a lot of things in my brain. I always describe my brain as a slot machine, with all those wheels whirling. These are all biocomputers running across here, tracking data. I have my 6 kids, my 12 grandchildren, my 6 businesses around the country, my art galleries, my everything I'm doing in my life, and my relationship, and I'm tracking it all the time and thinking of new ideas all the time. So the problem is that how do you remember anything when you have good ideas? So when I'm at night, a lot of times I wake up at 3 in the morning and I have these great ideas. And so I don't want to get up to write them down because that would wake me up totally. So I use what they call I can't say the name, Vygotsky, I can't, anyway, someone like that. And he does this, basically this process where you stack things. So in my brain, if I have to talk to Oliver about something, I put Oliver standing there. Then if I have, I'm sorry though, we lost you again. This is frustrating today. It worked wonderfully last time we did this. So he'll call in again, I guess, in a second, and we'll answer it. So anyway, so then I would put on top of it, let's say after I had to talk to you about something, I'd put you on his shoulders. And then if I had to remember to bring my laptop to get fixed, I put my laptop on top of your head. Then if I had to remember to get my car fixed, I put my car on top of the laptop. And if I had to remember to bring an orange to work because I wanted an orange or something, I put the orange on top of the car. And then I'd scale it up about 15 tall. And in the morning, I'd simply write it down. And it works for me, and I go back to sleep and feel fine. But that doesn't happen with everyone. I better call him back. He's gone forever. And anyway, so this is a frustrating process today with this little thing here. There he is, okay? Oh, wow. Okay, I'll just have to call him. And anyway, so what are the questions you have? Here's another question right here.
Hello.
We have another question.
So for Diana and I, who may not be that visual, how do we teach this to our kids?
If you're not visual, how do you teach?
Good question. And a lot of people find it initially quite difficult to encourage a strategy that doesn't work for them. It is really, I think the only way of doing it is to, sometimes introduce it as, I don't understand this thing. Maybe you can show me what this guy, is suggesting you can do by this. And using that approach, obviously, you're encouraging them to say, well, maybe I can help you. And just believe in, if you've got a sense that they are a visual learner, I think you'll find that, over and over and over again, I've seen this happen. The young person really does surprise the teacher by saying, no, I get this. I could completely get this straight away. You don't need to necessarily instruct step by step what you need to do with it. Literally just by folding the grid and saying, I don't know what this is going to do next, you decide. The whole idea of this is that it's a method that doesn't have step-by-step instructions. Having said that, in the book, it does take you through the 8 or 9 strategies in really quite a sequenced way for those that do want to deliver it without, in a sense, understanding it for themselves. But yeah, there's a lot of trust involved because you are encouraging a young person to draw when perhaps you're not used to them drawing, when you're trying to talk to them and asking them to listen. And as Michael said, you know, do you trust that they really are listening to you? Exactly. What happens if doodling something that isn't to do with the subject? There's a certain amount of trust that has to, you know, be levied there initially.
So, for example, when I came to your presentation, because of your English accent, it was very hard for me to listen to you for a long period of time. But by doing the pictures, I was able to stay with you because it was hard for me to decipher some of the words you were using in the context that you were using them. But by doing the pictures, I wasn't bored at all, and I stayed on task the entire time. And that's the difference. You have a question?
Yeah. I don't have it at my fingertips, but I think there are studies that indicate that even non-purposeful doodling increases retention.
Yes, I have had staff doodle during during my staff meetings, and it didn't seem to. I would get upset with it, you know. It didn't seem like they were paying attention, but I think they were just really smart people who would get bored. Oh, there we go again. Okay.
And I have understood, and I know what you've been talking about.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Not related.
Okay, we're going to take one final question and let you guys get out of here in time. And it's just the way it's going to have to be. I'm sorry for the technical problems. It's because the web is, you know, not really spotty here. And I don't usually have this problem. Card there. Yep. Maybe two. I would say no. It's any kind of object or shape that you relate to will work. You know, you can write a word there like fear or something, and then just do a little picture of whatever, and you'll remember for you what the context was. That's why it's so powerful, because you put it down the way you're going to remember it. My college notes would be all over the page, and they would be like just writings, and I wouldn't really know what the hell the concept was. When I went back to look at it, it was useless for me to study from my notes. So I couldn't read the textbooks because I hated them. So unless I'm only in the English lit because I was interested in English literature, did I read the textbook? The rest of it I didn't read at all. And I would pass them anyway because I guess I was smart enough. But there we go again for the last goodbye. Okay, so one more question and we're going to end here.
Yeah, second time round really is the testing point. I don't think you can judge it on first approach. I think you have to come at it a few times. That's certainly even visual learners who are really find that they're very comfortable with it. They have to go through a few stages before they feel that this is something they can own for themselves. Be surprised by it as you use it. Yeah. Okay, can I just say that if folks do want to make contact, I do now offer Skype tutorials as well. So do make contact. It would be lovely to hear from you. And thank you very much for the invitation to be with you today. Thank you.